I just have the bar that's progressing now.
Should be live. Once that bar goes up, we're live.
Oh, okay. So Manil, take it away.
Hello, everyone. This is the April 10th meeting for the CommComm restructuring efforts. This is a continuation of earlier meetings around defining the roles within CommComm, specifically contributor, specifically changing from observer to member to something else that's a little bit more aligned with the rest of the project. And should we do a roll call? Here?
I think we can do names. I guess I'll go first. My name is Turney Siren, developer advocate, node source, chairperson of the community committee. Michael?
Michael Dawson. I work for IBM. I'm the chair of the technical steering committee and member of the community committee.
Cool. Manil?
Hi, I'm Manil. I'm with the CommComm committee, the CommComm and developer out of Vancouver.
Awesome. Aguirre?
Maggie, member of the observer for the node.js CommComm project. I work with Office of Tech.
Awesome. Dhruv?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dhruv. I'm a student from India. And I'm not a member of CommComm, but as an observer.
Awesome. And then Dan.
Hi, Dan Shaw, D Shaw. So CommComm member, I'm the champion for the user feedback initiative, and I've been helping out with the new mentorship initiative.
Awesome.
Cool. So we have a couple of things on the agenda today. I'll just run through it really quick and include a rough time allocation for each of those. Those are not binding and will take as long as we need to within the scope of the meeting. First off, we have reviewing the last meeting and updating on last meeting's next steps, which will help people today get on board, especially if they haven't been at previous meetings. And it'll give us a solid footing for where we are and where we need to go for today and moving forward. After that, we will have a discussion to draft language that empowers working groups and teams, which was a suggested direction that would be helpful to take, especially because the previous conversations had a bit less of that. And we would also be discussing after that the roles, responsibilities, and criteria of the possible roles that we would need to define. And currently we are considering contributors, collaborators, and members. That's the three big items we have for today. If anyone wants to add anything to the agenda, maybe now would be a good time to bring it up so I can put it in the minutes.
Sounds good.
Do we have a link to the minutes?
It is in the very top of the issue. Yeah, it's let me try and find it. It's
There, I got it here. I can paste it in.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Sorry. Apologies.
Yeah, our meeting is formatted in a similar way. It's a bit more difficult to find stuff. All right. If I guess we could get started. And the first thing, and maybe we should decide. I can add notes to this as we go. The fidelity of my notes will be not wonderful based on if I'm talking in the moment or not, but I can definitely do that and fill it in later, especially if we have a recording of the meeting.
Yeah, if you want, we can all sort of type in things too, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to help with that as well.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Manil, you probably can focus on facilitating. Yeah, I'll help Tierney and Michael too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So the first item that we want to talk about as part of the review would be there was talk about moving forward on the observer transition plan. The idea behind it was if we were to be switching away from the observer to member stream, the current observers would need to be transitioned into the new flow so that their work would not be interrupted and they would still feel included. I'm not sure who could give up an update on that one.
And what does it mean when you by transition to the new flow?
So I think what we were originally talking about with that is there's people who are already in,
Yep.
are already an observer who, when we move it, they will still be an observer, or they would have still been an observer. And so we're trying to work to make sure that we're not just removing or kind of decent. I'm trying to think of a proper word for it.
Orphaning?
Orphaning. That's
Yeah.
a good word. Orphaning, the contributions that they've done. And this is like a limited group of people, but it is a group of people nonetheless.
Is it too big to just grandfather them, or I don't know? Maybe you guys already discussed this in the last meeting.
So we did discuss it to an extent.
We had not discussed grandfathering, I don't think.
I thought we did to a minor extent, and I thought we came to a kind of resolution around like what we were going to do with that. I'm going in to look at the minutes now from the last meeting.
How many people do we have in that state?
So let's see, Adam, A. Miller. I'm gonna look at Adam's tool that he's built to kind of look at the observership, but my guess is 5, and probably 3 or 4 of those are active, and there's going to be 7 or 8, but 3 of them are definitely not active, and beyond that, I'd guess 3. And I think with the people who have not been active and not have participated in 3 or 4 months, I think it's safe to we're gonna, if they have an issue with it, they can kind of come and engage with us and be grandfathered in if they want to, but we probably need to prioritize the people who have been active recently.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. You're still looking for what you guys agreed. What's the way forward? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, transitioning, processes, in my mind would assume that there's a new process to transition to. And
that's what we're trying to define.
Right. That's the point. So I haven't heard us get to a point where we've decided on a process. So, we can and should inform the individuals that are in the transition state that hey, we're changing things. We'd love to engage them, but I wouldn't think that we would want to migrate a process to a new process that's not defined yet.
Right. And so that's what we did agree on last meeting. We had quite a framework in the last meeting about this. Unfortunately, neither Olivia or Tracy are here to kind of discuss what was part of the bits that they contributed to, but I can kind of discuss some of the bits that I contributed to fully. So, we went through and had a definition of membership, and we have quite a bit of content around what this is, what a collaborator is, and kind of that we're going to be moving to a collaborator process rather than a CommComm membership process. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It's going to be a level up process, focusing on incorporating people from the activities that are happening in initiatives, teams, and working groups, and then enabling them to level up, because the CommComm is a relatively administrative group that we're trying to make sure we are covering the things that we need to, and enabling people to go do things rather than doing the things in the CommComm itself. And so that's generally what we agreed upon. And there's quite a bit of content around this that I'm not going to go all the way into in the last meeting minutes. But I highly suggest y'all check that out if you're interested in that full scope. And so part of what we did have last time was Agiri, who wasn't here for a second. I think he was an attendee, got dropped in attendee, and then I don't know if we were able to get him. I sent it to him instead of everyone. I don't know if we were able to get him back in. He
was in.
Yeah, he got pushed back down. I think he had to drop and then come back.
Okay.
But we did have a definition of collaborator, and as a collaborator, as a very active and vocal collaborator recently, it sounded he seemed to be okay with it. He said, it sounds like a fair plan. And removing observership, assuming that observers are active in the initiatives in the CommComm. That's specifically what he sounded like a fair plan. So yeah, I'm kind of concerned that we don't have people from all these meetings across. Like, two of the main people championing things in the last meeting were Olivia and Tracy. Tracy had a conflict, unfortunately. I'm not sure about Olivia, but it seems like we keep getting these meetings off where people who aren't, haven't been involved are in it, and then people who haven't been involved in the last meeting are in it, and then that's just kind of a cycle that we're going down. I'm concerned that we're losing too much context.
I guess at this point, it just sounds like there's almost enough to write the proposal, though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we should actually write the proposal, and then that's the thing to discuss and add to, and hopefully that just gets around that.
CommComm. Like, where this discussion seems to be trending is a bit worrisome to me, since we're assuming completion and ratification of a proposal that hasn't been brought back to the CommComm. I fully expect this to be ratified, but we do need to make sure that that much broader group is engaged, informed, and brought in. So if we're looking for a proposal for how to handle those individuals who are observers, great. If we're looking for action, I would strongly advise no.
Yeah, so I think what we need to focus on here is getting that out and getting that written. Like, I'd like to propose that we focus on writing that kind of as a group today. And so I do highly suggest that we pull some of the bits from the previous meeting, because they are there's quite a bit in there. Specifically, we worked on doing some definitions around this.
Right.
So I'd like to propose that that's what we do.
That sounds good. Why don't we dive in, see how much we can get written out, and then I guess leave some time at the end. I guess, Manil, does that sound like it's okay for what you wanted to get accomplished?
We do have enough time for it. So, and it would move us forward.
Okay. So I'm going to pull something from the previous notes. I'm trying to find the current ones. Where should we be writing this together?
How about in the minutes doc, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Although it might be easier if I don't know, Manil, you could invite us or make us editors or something. It should be granted that anyone with the link can edit. It might need a refresh because that wasn't the case before.
Okay. So let me try refreshing because it lets me comment, just not.
Mm-hmm.
Which is okay. Yeah, now I can edit. Good.
I have a definition of members from last time. Specifically around what Tierney was saying, and also some more information about how they empower working groups.
Manil, let's go to the bottom of the document. I think a couple of us are working there.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, just to make sure we're not cluttering things up a bit.
Yeah, you can keep notes. So Node.js Foundation just joined.
That's probably someone else who has. Can you promote them?
I can.
Awesome.
I'm surprised they needed to be promoted as the Node.js Foundation.
Once you're in as the host, you come back in, you get sidelined as an attendee. It's weird.
Okay. So who just joined us?
Oh, Mark. Hello, Mark.
Okay, there you go.
Roles.
Hey guys, sorry I was double booked for this time. I wanted to come.
No worries. This is more of us just kind of working on updating CommComm observership into more of a membership role.
Cool.
Okay, so Mark, for what it's worth, here's the document, Mark. There's the link that we're working on. We're editing in the bottom of that document. Okay, so roles, contributor. So I think these should probably be bullet points under. Actually,
I agree.
No. Yeah, bullet points. So contributor, collaborator. Yeah. So a contributor is, let's see, there was definition in the previous document, contributor. Okay, so in the past meeting, just trying to make sure I understand. Contributor. Yeah, so collaborator. Okay, so the definition we had is collaborate. We didn't have a definition for contributor, but collaborators are contributors to individual repos under the CommComm scope. So that's effectively anyone who contributes to an effort like internationalization, user feedback, website redesign, anything like that. That's my understanding.
But I guess the distinction might be that, like, a contributor is somebody who's been recognized and now has right access.
Yep.
Because that's the, anybody can be a contributor and adds, is active. But when you become a collaborator, you get something, extra access. And I think that's kind of the thing to call out, right?
Yeah. So I guess how would that vary? Let me get that.
Like sort of on the technical side, you can be a I don't know, we actually don't even have use a name, but you can be in a working group, and by being part of the working group, you get access to the repo and can commit things there.
Yeah.
And collaborator is kind of like overloaded. It's really a node core term, in that you become, when you become a collaborator, you get right access to the core repo. But it's at least like my personal opinion is that it's also the way to be recognized that you're making a regular and ongoing contribution to the project. So we do have occasionally people who like only make contributions to working groups who get nominated and become core collaborators. But it's almost always after they've made a few commits to core as well. And, the rationale is like you get access to core and become a collaborator because it lets you do what you need to do more effectively.
Right. So, because I guess the idea is that a contributor, because we have this disconnect with the CommComm where there's not one central repo, there's all the repos, and there's not like a node.js repo like there is in under the TSC.
I don't think it's that different. I honestly think it's different. I think it's historical that, and it's that the extra things you get are the committing to core, but it's a little bit more mixed in. Like just because you've only contributed to one of the working group repos doesn't mean you shouldn't be recognized as one of the collaborators or what I mean, to the project.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're getting at. So I don't know if we actually need this contributor role. I don't know if we have a definition for it, and if we don't have a definition for it, is there value in it?
Well, actually, I think it is, because it's a starting point. Here, I'll try and write something.
Okay. Because I guess I don't. What I'm saying is, I guess I don't know how it differs from the definition we came up with collaborator or collaborator.
So let me drop in the chat, just pulling from our current governance.
Oh yeah, if there is one already that we should use.
We have a definition for
okay.
Right.
Michael, could you promote William? He's also in here.
Yep.
Thanks.
So you're going to paste that in?
Sorry, I pasted that into chat.
Oh, okay.
Where I don't want to, we're forming a document. Let's see, current list of collaborators, guide for collaborators. Okay, yep, okay. I'm with you now. Just looking that up.
Right, okay.
A contributor is any individual creating or commenting on an issue or pull request. That sounds like our existing observers.
We don't, right now, we don't use contributor or collaborator. And we, as far as I know, we never have. These are things from the initial governance creation that never became practice. Because in the these are very single repo focused and not org focused.
I see.
And so this, also, Dan, for what it's worth, this isn't our governance. This is contributing, which is different.
Sorry, Taryn. I was looking for the definition for contributor.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, so those first two words are actually never used in our current vocabulary. We don't have, as far as I know, I hope I would be aware of this. We don't use collaborator or contributor.
So I'm just writing up, potential. So people start as contributors. Contributors I took the next line, contributors any individual creating or commenting on an issue, and I extended that to say, or participating in the work of the community committee. Contributors have no special access to the repositories under the community committee.
Okay.
Just so we're all building on something. You have a extensive definition of contributing on our README.
In the which one? The
CommComm.
Ah, there we go. Okay, right.
Right. Just so we're not, so we're building on our existing prior.
Yep. Let me just.
Yeah, I don't. So, like in that second paragraph there, I think that is fairly in line with what Michael wrote. Basically, start contributing. You can check out the issues and look for things labeled "good first issue" to see. And so that's like exactly in line with what Michael wrote. I'd say. And then, yeah, there's initiatives and working groups under that. A brief definition of like how to get involved there. Yeah, I think that's fairly in line. I don't see anything that drastically differs from what Michael wrote.
Right. And
I mean, all we really want to do in that text is eliminate the call to becoming an observer.
Yeah, I mean, that's effectively what we're doing, except we're slightly changing how membership works because that's the flow. Because otherwise, how do you become a member? And so that's what we're defining is like, okay, we're striking observer, but then also defining how to become a member. Oh, I wrote that down here.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
No worries. Cool, I can delete this then.
Give them right access to the, yeah. If you want to write, go ahead.
Repositories of the initiatives and
See, that's not cool. Actually, I was going to say they're given access to all the repositories under the CommComm.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
well,
maybe
see,
that may not be true though. I'm just that's what I was
that I
thinking.
don't
But you're because like if you're in a working group, you pretty much get access to the working group you're in.
Right.
Right.
So you don't necessarily need to become a
Yeah.
a collaborator.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's sort of like the rationale in the TSC side or the technical side was like, what do we need to give them so that having recognized that they're ongoing contributors, they can do the day-to-day work more easily.
Yeah.
And like access to, right access to the repos is one of those things where, okay, now that you're a collaborator, if we give you access to all the repositories, that means you can more easily participate across the areas, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's how you do the administrative functions of CommComm projects, right? You're, setting up meetings, you're filing issues, you're sharing content.
Right. So in that sense, I guess where does the line between collaborator and membership get drawn? Is membership just a function of voting? Because that's my understanding. Is it's just a function of voting, and you've come to the point where you are interested in helping that kind of meta level of organization. So actually, I tend to agree with you. So thank you for that, because I would have written that totally differently.
Right, because then membership is that basically you're now in the group of people who will help resolve differences.
Yeah.
And I guess, I think it's nice to sort of weave in the champions for strategic initiatives, but not to make it a prereq, but it's kind of like you're looking, bigger. It's almost like bigger picture and issue resolution would be my pitch for that. In terms of the core collaborator, really all you get access is to core. That does in fact give you the ability to land PRs and all that kind of stuff. But in the scope of CommComm, I'm trying to think: is there any reason why you wouldn't does giving red access to the other repos? Is there any downside? And there is the upside that people can more easily participate in the different areas.
Yeah, I don't right at this point. I don't think we have anything sensitive specifically that would be like we need to scope this down to make sure things are secure or things are safe. The only exception that might be internationalization eventually. We're not there yet. I think that's a later problem, and we can work. As that's developing out, we can work with that. But it's an unknown at this point, so we shouldn't be optimizing for it.
Right. So yeah. So I mean, as long as there's no concern, that would be, I think, a good starting point, because it gives them the rationale is it gives them the most tools to be able to do whatever across the community committee areas. Yeah. Okay.
Well, so kind of the way it worked in the technical side is we can define this granularity of that for each group. We can do that, but on the technical side, it always comes down to autonomy. So they decide, those individual groups decide who gets access into their stuff, right? So,
right, unless other than the working groups, you could say.
Right. So, I mean, if we're only talking, if we're not doing any working groups, we're only doing teams.
We are planning on working groups.
Autonomy.
We are planning on working groups. We have to get that phrasing down in our governance before we can actually move forward with that. So, we don't have working groups right now. If we did, we would. If we had that documentation, we would have working groups. So we probably should keep working groups in mind. That said, if you look at TSC membership, they have access to all of, or the majority of repos. Am I incorrect on that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that, yes, TSC members have access to all the
repos. Okay.
Repos. I just added in a line that says, they're given red access to all repositories of the community other than those under a working group.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't their access kind of dictated by everyone being an owner, though?
So that you're thinking of org access rather than yes, you are correct in that. Yes, their access is because they are org owners.
Right. So,
that said,
but I don't. Yeah, that's. I don't know that that the TSC's ever said if somebody wanted access, no. You know.
Yeah. And so with this, we are going to be focusing on CommComm repos specifically, which I assume will be grouped under the CommComm team, which is like an administrative thing that we're going to have to do. But I don't think there's necessarily a reason that this shouldn't be the case. It like Michael has said, it kind of helps us increase engagement.
Yeah, administrative members, right? You know, it may be worth. It may be worth stating, though, that, you know, yes, you are empowered to act on behalf of the CommComm. The expectations, however, are still that in a local initiative or whatever, if you're not an active member, you're not going to sort of, you know, plow through. You need.
Yeah. It's still.
I don't think we need to optimize that.
You now have access, but you know, we're trusting. I think that's worth.
I would probably lean more towards like CommComm members have access, but make it maybe write the intention in there for like administrative purposes. And where that usually comes in, like in the TSC, there were certain groups that just went, you know, quiet. And then someone came along and said, hey, I would like to pick up this initiative, but none of the existing people are around anymore to you know, through and close issues and all that stuff. So at that point, someone from the TSC had to go in and give that person access and say, it's all yours now, right?
Yes.
So that's an administrative kind of thing a CommComm member could do, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I don't like, I agree with that. And I don't think that's something we should, like, that's going to be something we do, I think. But I guess right now we're talking about collaborator, which is below membership. And have collaborators having access to the entirety of CommComm repos, and I think that's like, you know, a level of trust thing. That's what we're talking about right now.
I see what you're saying.
Okay,
and
so I would say members. Members would have that the extended ability to act further on behalf of the CommComm, but collaborators, I think, should be local to the team.
Okay, that's what I initially wrote.
Okay.
You could argue that.
Sorry, I think I got confused that we were talking about members.
Okay.
Right. If you, in that, you know, if you have a working group, I could see the working group's a separate thing, right? If you, if we follow the same model, you deferred responsibility, so that team should be able to decide who has access. All the other repos for the community committee.
Yep.
Like, okay, you're named a collaborator. What does that give you?
Yeah.
Right. It should be something that helps them be more effective. Like we've recognized, you know, either it could just be a badge. It's like, hey, you're now can call yourself a contributor. But so, ideally, that there's something we're doing to say, okay, you've got a level of trust. Now you can do things more easily.
Yeah, I don't know when if you've discussed when someone becomes part of the org, because traditionally, you know, contributors are not part of the org, right? And then collaborator is, you know, when you actually get that GitHub badge and you come to the org, and you would have the discounts available for membership and.
Right. We do want to put that in, right?
So I do think that I tend to agree with Michael, especially because of our initiative model. Instead of going down a working group first model, we're going down an initiative first model, which is significantly different than how the TSC did it. And I have seen many people go from initiative to initiative, and also many people stay in a single initiative. And I think that enabling those people to be a contributor to initiatives rather than just one and have to kind of go through that level up process again is going to reduce a lot of friction and it's going to help us optimize our time a little bit better for managing that.
Why is that, Turney? So if someone comes in through user feedback and is successful there, but wants to transition over to also working with mentorship, I would expect some investment of time, basically, by that individual to getting comfortable with mentorship and getting their bearings and becoming an active member there. So if folks are coming in through initiatives or working groups or whatever, then I actually would have that expectation that each time there would be a level up, and only if you come in through the hierarchy would you gain that greater privilege.
And I guess so. The reason isn't necessarily about the groups themselves; it's about the CommComm structure, because a working group is its own governed group, whereas an initiative reports directly to the CommComm's governance. Like it uses the CommComm's governance. It's a in board term, it's a subcommittee effectively. And so it's still.
I personally hate our definition of working groups. It's a legacy thing that is protectionist, and I will be very happy once we evolve beyond that protectionism to greater collaboration.
And
that was
that's
the reason why we ended up with initiatives.
That's kind of what I'm trying to push toward is greater collaboration.
Right. The reason why we ended up with initiatives was because I basically went out and raised my hand. Hey, can I go create a working group? And it was like, oh my god, like please don't do that.
But the difference is like you need to delegate responsibility. Like the history is, working groups. It's basically like you can go do off whatever you want without the without the TSC in that case having authority. Like it would have to be like, we're going to revoke your charter and change the decision we didn't like, right? The other model is, well, there's still a working group. You pretty much do whatever you want. However, you haven't formally delegated the decision making. So even though it effectively works that way, and that way it's easier to say yes, go off and run off. Because in one case, you're basically saying, trust me to always do the right thing and not listen to what you're telling me. In the other case, you're just saying, I want to run off and do something, and I'm
telling you what's going on.
you're still involved in the decision making, right? So, you don't have to say anyway. If we could get away from that being a deterrent, that would be good, right? It's sort of like, because what I've seen is I don't think it really makes a huge difference anyway.
Yeah.
Like the formal chartering has never made a huge difference in terms of what happens.
Yeah, I agree. So Dan and I have been kind of on opposite sides of this. What do other people think? Like, let's make space for other people to kind of give their input on this. And I'd like to get everyone's thoughts
on what turn?
On the collaboratorship having full access to CommComm repos that aren't working groups, so effectively initiatives and teams, compared to limiting them, scoping them down to the ones that they specifically contribute to.
I don't really see a need for it, and also feel if we do see a need for it, we'll just change it.
A need for what?
Them having access to all the CommComm repos.
The escalated privileges.
Okay.
The only thing I'd put on, part of the discussion here is we're trying to move from like everybody wants to be a member because that gives them the tools to do things more easily to there's another level where people can do things effectively. So I'd almost be like unless there's a downside, giving people more access is a good thing. Now, there's obviously the risk, like the more access you give people to land things and whatever, it sort of goes against the least privilege. But I do think the project has been pretty good in terms of being very liberal in terms of, becoming a collaborator is much easier than it is in a lot of other projects. And that has been beneficial for us. And, that gives you access to write code that will go into Node Core. And we always figure, well, if there's a problem, we can back that out, we can recover. And so I'd lean more on if we can do something that may make people's lives easier or even gives them the perception that they can do things more easily, that's the side that I would sort of lean towards at this point, just to, if it has anything to do with people's psyche in terms of thinking they're more empowered, and there's not a real downside, then I would lean towards that.
Yes, I would agree with that as well.
Like, so for example, Dan, do we think people are going to start now randomly committing things and writing things into the user feedback repo?
No, and I'd love the opportunity to provide feedback on why I believe that this is the better model. But Manil, you had a comment. Maybe we're trying to get other voices besides me.
I was going to add that from what I've seen on the activity so far, there are people who aren't even members yet, who just have requested observership status, who jump into different repos that are under the scope of the CommComm and contribute and try to move things forward and create issues around things they feel might have traction and use and value. So if we were to give people more access and like the power to do more of that, it wouldn't hurt us as much yet. And I don't think that it could in a way that would be irreversible. So,
so giving them access isn't about like accepting PRs and things like that. They're allowed to close issues and edit comments, which I think are maybe the more irreversible or harder to reverse things.
So giving them write access to a repo enables them to edit comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I would, if that becomes an issue, GitHub has improved in terms of how they service that. So like, I definitely see that as being the more of the issue. But like Michael was saying, I tend to lean on the side of trusting people, and if there is an issue, we can handle it. There's a moderation team that can effectively handle things like that. But yeah, you were right. That is the harder part. And if people go through collaborator to contributor, then I don't think that's necessarily as much of an issue. If they're already become a contributor, we put some level of trust in them. And that's where I don't think, I think we should be trusting those people if we're putting level of trust in them.
Yeah. So I'm only like 50-50 on, like, I see your side. I think the side that I haven't really vocalized was, as a team member, if somebody that hasn't participated comes in and we're to close issues or something like that, I think the team would be like, maybe a little set, I don't know, put off by that. But so that's just a counter to it. But again, like I say, I'm right down the middle of, it could go either way,
The other thing I'd have to go and look at what the full list of repos are. I mean, maybe there's some subset that makes sense as well.
So I have a full list. If you actually go to the community committee repo and then click the tag or the topic community committee, that's all our repos. I did that when I was going
topic. What do you mean?
Yeah, so the tag, I linked it. I linked it in the Zoom chat.
Oh, okay. Sorry, let me go to that.
No worries. That should be all of our repositories. It's like the GitHub tags that they have now.
Okay, so there's not that many. There's evangelism badges, Node.js collection,
I18N, website design.
Well, you could say that they're given access to the community committee. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say if we've gotten to a point where we've stated the counterpoint, I'd like to state the point because I don't think we've adequately defined why I wouldn't have that initial group go into the expanded privileges. So I don't have any interest in limiting privilege or controlling individuals. My experience in now, kicking off 2 initiatives is it's not privileges that are limiting folks' ability to go and do things. It's experience. And so, these ladders, this escalation of capability is recognition that, hey, you're growing in your understanding of the project. You're growing in your contribution to the project. So by leveraging the concept of administrative access, we can begin modeling what are the expectations and incentives. So you start as a collaborator in one of the groups or more in a plurality of groups. For example, Aguirre reached out. He wants to join us in the mentorship. Great. He comes into that and begins to elevate up, and then that level of membership is the expectation of that now you're a member. It's part of your responsibility to curate the entirety of the responsibilities of CommComm.
So curate the entire responsibilities of CommComm. Where does that lie? Sorry, I
that's where you get more access to more repos. I wouldn't accelerate that earlier on because it's not necessary, and I don't think it's in line with the folks' expectations. By the way, Aguirre is back.
Yeah, I just saw that as well.
Oh, here, let me promote him.
Yeah.
So I'm, in saying, I don't think we should, extend those privileges. It's not a question of, limiting damage, limiting anything. It's just a matter of setting expectations of activity.
Yeah.
So they would get access to the moderation repo.
Yeah, I assume that's a given.
So that, so basically they become members of the Node.js organization, are given right access to the moderation repo would be the...
Hi, Gary, I'm going to mute you. Or maybe I'm not. I don't have that privilege.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does.
I could promote people if you want.
That's fine.
Yeah, I see your point, and I guess where I'm coming from in that is partially from a background of leveling up through like 4 or 5 different working groups and teams before the community committee, and it was a pain. It's really difficult, and it very, very non-trivial to feel like you can start contributing. Or at least that's how it was back then for me. And so I'm more focused on lowering that barrier and making sure that we're able to continue getting people who are engaged, like Aguirre and like Druv, continuously engaged, and making sure that they're able to engage anywhere in the project that they want, and not having to go through the same process multiple times, especially since that process is defined in the CommComm and not in each specific initiative.
I just still disagree.
Okay.
-1.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough...
How should we come to consensus on this? Because we need to decide one way or the other. I have my opinion, but I don't mind which way we decide. We should just try to push forward to consensus on one way or the other.
Yeah, I rewrote that section. I don't know, like I took that out. I said to be added to the community collaborators team. So the Node.js organization are added to the community collaborators team and are given right access to the moderation repo. The only other thought I have is like, is there some repo where it makes sense to have all collaborators, and maybe I'm just trying to make something up here, so it's not necessarily a good idea, but like a repo where everybody would have right access, but isn't focused around one of those initiatives?
Maybe admin. I don't know who actually does and doesn't have access.
I think admin I wrote into once you're a member.
Okay, cool.
Because that's sort of the cross TSC/community committee
makes sense
area.
For what it's worth, I'm willing to let that point go for now, and we can revisit this if we need to in the future. I think if we see reasons to change it, we can. So
Yeah.
I'm totally open to examples of needing this and the pain. I share your pain in getting started and going through various working group scenarios, Tierney. But I don't in my experience, it wasn't privileges that were the pain points.
Mhm.
It was people.
Yeah,
I agree
no,
with
I
that.
agree with that. Totally agree with that. And I imagine I am probably one of those people in some situations. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, we're at our hour.
Okay.
Where does this go?
So we should probably create a issue for this. We need to do. So we stopped on collaborators. I don't know if we have more.
I think, to be honest, the best thing would be for somebody to take what we have, write a PR,
Mm-hmm.
and then people can actually that lets you comment specifically on individual lines, and because we don't need the perfect thing.
Yep.
But having something which is close enough would, and it sounds like there's been enough discussion that we should, if people are agreed to that leveling up flow,
Mm-hmm.
we're probably close enough that somebody can then take that and flesh out, what we've got here into something that then we can make specific comments on and hopefully move towards an actual document.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Put together a document that includes the stuff that we have talked about now from the notes, and make a PR. I'm not sure if it needs an issue around it as well.
I think you could just refer to the issue you already had, right? Which is you have the restructuring issue. You can say, here's the PR for the doc. We're trying to make the outcome of that. Does that work?
Yep, that works fine. That works fine. I can do that, and we'll have a next action for this then.
So there are 3 potential landing places for that. Do we want to talk real quick, just to build some consensus around where that goes, whether that's the README, the governance, or contributing?
I think the answer is yes. Because as far as I know, we will need to update our governance. Sorry. Yeah.
Can we choose one just to not bash?
Let's do contributing for now, and then we can work on governance later, because governance needs to be more formal.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest.
That's good.
Contributing.
Okay.
Thanks, Manel.
Thank you.
Sorry. So far, is it that everybody, observers will be transitioning to members, or what's the plan?
So I think what we agreed on early, at the very beginning of this, was that observers, active observers, people who've been active in the past few months, will probably need to put a definition down for that. But you would definitely fall into that. Druv would definitely fall into that. Will be promoted to member. That's my understanding. That's what I think we generally agreed on.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, awesome. We'll grandfather people who are in. Yep.
So, sorry, one more question. Is it that people that we promoted to observers will have to make a PR to become members, or we just promote them to members?
So this is going to be a pretty hefty process for us, and that will probably be worked out once we make the transition. You probably won't need to PR yourself. We will handle that when we're doing this transition.
Yeah, and I almost think you could grandfather in a way that says, all the requirements that were in place before still need to be met, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yep.
That way, the people who you said aren't active just will have never met those criteria, and that's, that's the
perfect way to do that, Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay. So yeah, we'll look forward to the PR, Manil, and.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Thanks
for coming to the meeting. I'm glad we have something to move forward on.
Yeah. Great. Talk to you all guys all next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.